Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Ten Under 10 on the Hoosier Network. I'm Graham Nash, of course, with Adam Oppenheim, and we're going to get straight into it because basketball is back, which means lots of scores and lots of news in the sports world. We're in Week 11 of college football, though, so we'll start on the turf before transitioning to the hardwood. In the Lone Friday showdown, the UCLA Bruins took down the Iowa Hawkeyes in a close one. Bruins, they win 20-17 at the Rose Bowl under the Friday night lights. The Indiana Hoosiers, they moved to 10-0 for the first time in program history after taking down the Michigan Wolverines in a barn burner. Hoosiers win 20-15 and are ranked 5th in the AP college football polls. Ohio State, they clearly had some issues with people saying they weren't a stable football team after near losses to Nebraska and Penn State. They crushed Purdue 45-0. The number 1 ranked Oregon Ducks continue to roll in conference play as they took down Maryland 39-18. And lastly, Penn State bounced back nicely after their loss against OSU last week. They smoke Washington 35-6. Adam, let's start with the drama here in Bloomington since, after all, we are at Indiana University. A lot of noise coming from Memorial Stadium.
It was a big-time win by Indiana, and the sign of a great team is not playing well and winning the game. Indiana's offense was really not super good in this game. They had trouble moving the ball, but the defense stepped up big time. Obviously, the Michigan offense isn't super high-powered, but they were able to force turnovers, force pressure on Davis Warren, and once again, the Indiana team just continues to stack up wins. Everyone says, their strength of schedule is pretty low. They're going to face Ohio State after the bye, so we'll see then.
Let's talk about Ohio State. They got a very convincing win in Columbus. They're looking really strong for that showdown.
Absolutely. It's been a really rough year for Purdue, and Ohio State just absolutely crushed them. The Buckeyes offense was rolling. The defense has been really solid this season. The question marks, I think, have been on the offensive end, more with Will Howard and his targets, his receivers. But still, impressive win by Ohio State.
And then quickly, Penn State and Oregon, they had 2 good wins again. How did they look to you?
Well, Oregon defeated Maryland. It was sort of a close game, but once again, not too worried about Oregon. They run the ball super effectively, top 30 in the country in rushing yards per carry. As for Penn State, they won against Washington, but it really doesn't matter because James Franklin lost 8 straight times against Ohio State. He's 1-9 versus top 5 teams in the AP poll. He just can't win the big games. So when you look at the Washington game, you're like, oh, yippee. You beat the Washington Huskies team that lost nearly everyone from last year on a title contender team. James Franklin should be fired after this season. Cannot seem to win a big game. You have it in Happy Valley, a 10-0 lead after a pick 6. They have to win a big game. Now, keep in mind, Penn State's not this unranked team or bordering on a top 25 team. They're top 10 nearly every year. So losing to these top 5 teams, Michigan and Ohio State, it's huge because those are the wins that change your program. They're the ones that help you get recruits. And once again, James Franklin failing to do his job over and over and over.
All right, well, it'll be interesting to see if they can make it to the postseason. Currently, looks like they're comfortably in that range. But let's shift gears and move to the gym as we talk about a highly anticipated men's basketball season. There's a lot of scores, though, so bear with me as we get through all of them. Purdue, they start off their season strong as they look to return to the Final Four. They took down A&M Corpus Christi 90-73 and then beat Northern Kentucky 72-50. Their cross-state rivals, the Indiana Hoosiers, also had a good start, beating Southern Indiana 80-61 and Eastern Illinois 90-55. Just next door, the Illini had a very similar start to the Hoosiers as they also took down Eastern Illinois 112-67, and they also beat Southern Indiana 90-58. A lot of points in Illinois. To the east, the Ohio State Buckeyes took down Texas in their lone contest so far, 80-72. Maryland beat the Manhattan Jaspers 79-49. Penn State beat the Birmingham Bearcats and the UMBC Retrievers 106-66 and 103-54. Also, Northwestern beat the Lehigh Mountain Hawks 90-46, but they lost to the Dayton Flyers 71-66. As for the teams up north, Michigan State beat the Monmouth Hawks and the Niagara Purple Eagles 81-57 and 96-60 respectively. Their cross-state rivals started out strong, crushing Cleveland State 101-53, but the Wolverines lost by 2 on Sunday to Wake Forest. That final score was 72-70. Wisconsin started off strong, taking down Holy Cross 85-61, Montana State 79-67, and also Appalachian State 56-87. As for Minnesota, they beat Oral Roberts 80-57 and the Omaha Mavericks 68-64. The Iowa Hawkeyes also started well, taking down Texas A&M Commerce 89-67 and the Southern University Jaguars 89-74. As for the final Midwest team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers beat the UTRGV Vaqueros 87-67 and the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 63-58. We'll finish with the newly added West Coast teams. Yes, there's more, believe it or not. USC, they beat Chattanooga 77-51, and they took down the Idaho State Bengals 75-69. Their crosstown rivals, the UCLA Bruins, beat the Rider Broncos 85-50, but they lost to the New Mexico Lobos 72-64. The Ducks of Oregon beat UC Riverside 91-76, and the Montana Grizzlies 79-48. And finally, Washington, they squeaked past UC Davis 79-73, but lost to Nevada 63-53. Adam, I'm going to be honest, I don't know half of the schools that I just talked about. So how much do we really know at this point after 2 weeks?
First of all, props to you on reading all that. That was extremely tough. But you really don't know a lot with these non-conference games. Something to note, Purdue's going to presumably be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. Daniel Jacobson, their freshman center, is probably going to be out for the year with a fractured tibia. He was, in line to be their starting center, so that's big news in the Big Ten. UCLA lost a close one in New Mexico. But the Lobos, they're going to be a top 3 team in the Mountain West, so I really don't think that's a bad loss at all. And then there's just a ton of other questions surrounding Big Ten teams. USC with Eric Musselman, they bring in practically an entire team that's new, and you have no clue how they're going to fare. UCLA and Mick Cronin trying to get back to where they were before, 2-3 years ago. And then Dusty May at Michigan. Once again, a bunch of new players. Michigan lost a close game to Wake Forest. Couldn't rebound the ball with 2 7-footers. But besides that, you really don't know until you start to ramp up into conference play.
A lot of scores, not a lot of answers yet. Also, I've been told I look like Dusty May. Shout out Dusty May. Leave down in the comments if you agree. We'll move to the Big Ten men's soccer tournament, which is coming to a close. And a whole lot happened that you might not expect. So let's go through all the drama from the past week. The second-ranked Indiana Hoosiers lost to Michigan in a 1-0 stunner. And speaking of stunners, the third-ranked Maryland Terrapins lost to the UCLA Bruins by an eye-opening 6-0 margin. In the final quarterfinals match, Washington and Michigan State couldn't find the back of the net until penalties, where the Huskies outdid the Spartans 5-3 in PKs. In the semis, there was more PK drama as the Michigan Wolverines took down the Bruins 4-2 in penalties after drawing 1-1 through 110 minutes. The Wolverines will face the top-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes in the championship match next Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, as the Buckeyes defeated Washington 3-1 on Sunday. Adam, 2 teams, 1 trophy. Who's going to win it all?
I got Michigan. I'll take the team with a ton of momentum. 6-3 Ohio State early in the season. They came off a huge win in penalty kicks. This Michigan team, they're dangerous.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. They got not a lot of time left. Only 2 games. We've had a lot of scores already. We're going to wrap things up quickly with ice hockey. Michigan State took down OSU twice, beating them 4-2 on Friday and 4-1 on Saturday. The defending champs took down the Irish 2-1 on Friday and 4-2 on Saturday. Minnesota made the trip to Madison and took down the Badgers 3-2, both on Friday and on Saturday. And that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Special thanks to our producers Colin Dusick and Henry Thuss for making it all happen behind the cameras. Be sure to subscribe and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at B1G_under10. And check back in soon for our next episode of Big Ten Under 10.